Hey everyone. Hell is not frozen over. Well, I mean, maybe. But us being here on my channel does not mean that it has. It just means that it's 2 months since the last time I did anything on my channel. And we're here back with New Comic Book Day Book Club for the November Lookback. How's it going, John?
November was not a great month. I'm just gonna say, not a lot of great reading. This could be one of our great bitch fests.
Do you mean November was not great in the comic world, or just like in
I don't want to be
existence?
specific. I don't really want to be painting with specific colors here. I just want to say it.
I hated all of that.
Yeah, just pass on November.
What's up, Gore? Thank you for stopping by.
Good to see you,
Always
sir.
nice
Always.
to see you. Yeah, so we're only going to talk about, well, really discuss 3 books tonight. I mean, we might, we each kind of have something we want to touch on ourselves.
Yep.
That didn't come out right.
No.
We each have a book that we might want to just bring up on our own. But otherwise, we are going to discuss the new Hulk #1,
Yep,
the new Venom #1, and Radio Apocalypse #1, which is a Vault book by Ram V.
Yeah.
So, interestingly, besides them just being huge Marvel releases, Venom and Hulk kind of like flip-flopped writers.
Yeah.
Sort of. Well, Venom is Al Ewing and Ram V, and then Donny Cates took over Hulk. So Al Ewing had like some backup, like he brought in a buddy. But Donny Cates was all on his own.
I mean, I feel like on the surface level, this was a solid concept, just taking these writers and putting them on these properties,
both very successful fan favorite writers. Not like it's
all 3 of them, I would say. You know,
not a couple of schmucks who haven't been selling their books well.
Right.
Who they decided, well, let's just switch you over to see if maybe that'll boost interest. It's like, okay, kind of 2 of the top 3 or 4 writers at Marvel who, and both Venom and Hulk, especially Immortal Hulk was what, 50 issues?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty rare nowadays to have a writer on a title that long.
Right.
So I'm sure,
especially at Marvel.
Yeah, no kidding. So I'm sure both Marvel executives and Al Ewing were probably like, it's time to kind of try something new here, and we got to release a new #1. What's up, Comics Kings?
Brandon, how's it going, man? So yeah, we'll dive into Hulk and Venom, which I do feel like, there's some, connective tissue going on there from the creative side because of the crossover that happened. And then this Vault comic, the Ram V Radio Apocalypse. Did you have a preference? Do you want to do the Marvel?
Yeah, let's do the Marvels first.
Okay. Sorry, Brandon.
So yeah, they it should be pointed out that they both got new artists.
Yes.
They didn't flip-flop artists, and the artists did not stay on the book. So they both got new artists. So Brian Hitch, right, is doing Venom.
Yeah, I honestly don't think I could name either artist. Sorry.
Ryan Otley is doing Hulk. Big-headed curmudgeon. Is that? I mean, am I MODOK? I'm a big-headed curmudgeon. Well, let's start with Hulk then. Why don't we?
All right. So this seems to pick up pretty much on the heels of Immortal Hulk, with the world sort of chasing this the Hulk down because of all the
events
he'd done. Yeah. And
Which-
go ahead.
If you didn't read the end of Immortal Hulk, I would assume you'd probably be a little confused because
Yeah, I was a little
there's
confused.
literally, this is page 1, right? Like Venom had, we'll talk about that in a minute, but Venom had, the classic kind of page
Previously
1,
on.
like, yeah. And this is just like, nope, Hulk's punching stuff, get with the program.
And we get this sort of odd look at the relationship between Bruce and the Hulk as the Hulk leads us to a facility that Tony Stark has, where he has created this Hulkbuster, like a supersized Hulkbuster suit, and Hulk wants to bust it.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was really about. And in fact, like, when it got to that point where it revealed like the giant Iron Man armor, I was still confused about the fact that his arm just regenerated.
Yes, I was not aware of that ability.
But
I knew he could heal, but like,
here's the weird thing. Here's the weird thing, right?
He grew a new arm.
He did grow a new arm, but so
between 3 panels,
he rips his own arm off to get out of this trap that
right.
Tony Stark set for him with these nanoparticle adamantium shards.
Oh, you haven't heard of that before?
No, I mean, that's fine.
The nanoparticle.
One of the here, let me do this. How do I work this program? Okay. Over here, right? He rips one of the robot's arms off and then affixes it to his own arm. So
right.
I was kind of under the impression that he was then going to have a robot arm for the rest of the issue. But then on the next page, he is punching Tony Stark, and the robot part of the arm just kind of shatters away, and his arm is there again.
It's back.
I didn't understand that.
Me neither. It's not explained. It's just go with it.
Also, like, it wasn't even like, oh, cool. It just was like, why did that happen?
Yeah, it left you with the wrong kinds of questions.
But you haven't, and I'll let you finish. Maybe you were going to get to it, but you didn't get to the craziest part of the whole story.
Well, yeah. So there's this, like, you're talking about the dimension door or whatever.
See, if Gore was confused, then I feel a lot better because he understands most things. So if even he was like, yeah, I don't know what is happening, I'm like, okay, I'm glad I'm not just missing something.
Yeah, the dimension door thing, right? Is that what you're talking about?
The thing that Doctor Strange is like kind of explaining to a bunch of the Marvel heroes what's going on, and explains it that Bruce has kind of taken his mind and split it into thirds. And he is now using the Hulk body as basically a spaceship, as he describes it, right?
Yeah.
Where Bruce is piloting the Hulk.
Right.
But like it shows him physically like in a bridge.
like a Star Trek bridge.
Yeah. And so he is aware of all 3 parts of himself, where one is the Hulk physical manifestation of the big strong boy, who is now also a spaceship that is carrying metaphysical Bruce,
right,
who has then trapped Hulk anger behind this door that he is then tormenting with mind bullets, to get him more angry, to give him more power,
to control the spaceship.
The whole time I was reading it, one word kept coming to mind. It was just goofy.
It wasn't why.
It was goofy. The whole thing was just goofy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, without being like fun or funny.
Right.
Which, like, I'm used to Donny Cates being like goofy. I mean, I've read the Cosmic Ghost Rider and Thanos, which I think had similar tone, but were able to be funny, able to be like fun.
This was like there were no jokes or anything.
No.
It was just Bruce getting mad and yelling about stuff.
Yeah. And somehow Bruce being the like new villain of the book almost.
Yeah.
Which I mean is an interesting concept.
By saying like, oh, maybe it's really the Hulk is protecting us from Bruce this whole time.
Which at its core is an interesting concept. But then it's like all this other crap.
Handled like a fifth grader wrote it. No offense to Donnie, I think he's done some great work, but the thing that surprised me the most about it was just like, so like you said, it was clearly a direct continuation of Immortal Hulk.
Right.
This wasn't like a reimagining of the character. This was, we're picking up where we left off. But the tonal shift was like the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, didn't know what else to say there. Yeah, I mean, for me, I just felt like it didn't feel like Donny Cates was doing anywhere near his best work, both like emotionally, where he could tap into the core of characters like Thanos or Frank Castle or whatever, and you're like, okay, like or the Silver Surfer, and give you some kind of a core quality to them.
Mm-hmm.
This does not, in my opinion, tap into Hulk or Bruce or Tony or Doctor Strange. It just is very detached from all of that. And then fun, like I think of Donny Cates' books as oftentimes being a lot of fun. Like you read it and this feels more like his Guardians of the Galaxy, which I was like, I couldn't run away from fast enough. So, sorry. I mean, I'm curious to know what he does with this in the long run, but I'm also perfectly fine reading this on Marvel Unlimited in like a year and seeing like, what is it like? Like same with, which is where I'm at with his Thor. Like I've never read his Thor, but I perfectly fine just digitally reading it one day when it's like not going to cost me anything more than I already have paid.
Yeah, and on top of that, like I enjoy Ryan Otley's work well enough.
Mm-hmm.
I did not think it was, number one, very good in this book, and number two, the right look for the book.
Maybe I didn't really think about that concept, but definitely not. Certainly not near the best of Ryan Otley. Like, yeah, lots of panel transitions that were confusing, left you trying to piece together what's going on.
Yeah, which again, like, is that Ryan Otley's fault or is that a script problem?
Let's just say yes.
Everyone dropped the ball.
I mean, yeah,
it is. Just goofy.
Totally. But in my opinion, still not as bad as Venom. If you want to get into that one.
Oh, really?
I liked Venom less than I liked Hulk.
Okay, interesting. Because I liked Venom more. Like I wouldn't say I loved it.
I mean, admittedly, I'm not getting the second issues of either. If I was going to rate Hulk, I mean, I'd probably give Hulk a 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10, something like that.
Yeah,
just because it was curious enough, and the concept had like, I liked the idea of making Bruce the villain. So there's like a nugget of something there.
I did not enjoy reading it. It was a 5. It was fine. Like I didn't hate it. Like it wasn't, Captain Marvel or Seven Secrets. Like it didn't,
or any of the Guardians of the Galaxy,
or Guardians of the Galaxy, or Deceased #1. Like it didn't make me angry reading it. I was just like, this is not for me.
And hey, if a Hulk book can't make you angry, then you're not reading the right Hulk book.
That's fair enough.
Donny
That's
Cates
fair.
is the villain. There you go. I mean, sure.
So Venom, would you like to start on that then?
Yeah. I mean, the number one critique I have against Venom is it feels like a book that is shoddily written by two writers, and as a result, just feels like neither of their best work. Like in both cases, I think it's the worst of Rom. It might be the worst thing I've read from Rom V, and it definitely doesn't feel like anything of the like. I'm loving Al Ewing on Sword right now, which is the Storm comic book if you really want to look at it. But like,
what a surprise you like it.
This feels like it's written by committee and nobody can agree what this thing's about and what's going on. It's two storylines. We've got Dylan Brock on Earth, and he's basically a latchkey kid at this point. Like Eddie is there, but he's like a zombie in a chair, and he doesn't wake up for like weeks at a time. I don't know how his body sustains, but whatever. Because the other half of the story is Eddie like hijacking symbiotes through time and space on the other side of the universe and like leading them to do good deeds as if they're like the Venom Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're like symbiotes flying around doing these things, and he can control the mass of them. So there's this outer space symbiote soldiers thing,
King in Black,
and then there's Eddie Brock coming to terms with what he can do and basically having to take care of himself because dad is never around.
Dylan.
Sorry, did I say?
You said Eddie.
Eddie, sorry. Dylan is because Eddie's never around. Dylan is sort of taking care of himself.
And getting into fights at school and stuff.
Yeah. I emotionally, again, didn't connect to either one of these storylines. Like, I just didn't care. It felt very scattered. And it was hard to even like follow because of the way that they chop it all together. It felt like legitimately, it felt like they could have written two comics. The like Dylan Brock,
a Dylan Venom series and an Eddie Venom series,
and then eventually like tie them together with an event or something.
But Marvel loves doing that,
right? But this just feels like it just feels shoddy to me, and I was very frustrated by the layout and design of it, where the skipping around just felt useless to me.
Well, I mean, they did kind of convene at the end.
Yes. Do you want to add something to it? Sorry.
So basically, the story is that you've got Eddie, like John said, he's flying out in outer space and not necessarily trying to do good deeds per se, but like give the symbiotes their good name back after Null, kind of became such a tyrant. But he does that by beating up Skrulls. Like, I don't know. So, but yeah, he can jump from symbiote to symbiote, and then he runs into this. One of his other symbiotes gets taken over by some other force with glowing red eyes from the future, who says, like, I've come to tell you that you're not going to be on the throne for very long, but there's nothing you can do about it. So why is he telling him? Because he literally says, like, you can do nothing to stop this. I'm just giving you this information. It's like, well, why? So then Eddie realizes, oh, maybe I can like not only travel through space, but maybe I can travel through time and kind of get a glimpse as to what's happening, which he does sort of. And then a fake Eddie comes to try to kidnap Dylan.
Yep.
But then the real Eddie calls him on the phone and convinces him that he's the real Eddie, and to like sneak out and meet him at this motel where they blow it up with a helicopter. And then Dylan merges with the Venom symbiote and starts killing people.
Yep.
And then there's like 14 first appearances.
I mean, that's you're rounding down, but I appreciate it.
I mean, it felt like I was more entertained by it than the Hulk, but it felt like kind of just like a cheesy action movie. Like if this were a Venom movie, it wouldn't surprise me because the Venom movies have not been very well received.
That it would seem like it would be fitting with the other Venom movies, quality wise, for me. Any dramatized readings? Did we not? I mean,
maybe we
perhaps.
could. Always has the opportunity.
So for me, like the skipping between outer space and present and Dylan on Earth, and then also skipping between time, and then having two Eddies and like a million, like it was just all over the place. The story just felt all over the place to me.
I will say, like, I was definitely more interested in Eddie's story than Dylan's story.
Absolutely. But again, I felt like it could have been two comics.
If it had just been that, like, I think probably I would have enjoyed it more.
Which is more like Agent Venom, which is a phenomenal, solid story.
Yeah.
It feels like they were trying to do like a little bit of that and then a little bit of Kates's like Dylan storyline and then the artwork. I do not, is Brian Hitch. I don't know Brian Hitch, but no.
I mean, he's been working for years and years and years.
There's so many lazy eyes in this book. I thought it was like deceased. It's just like the perspectives are all really skewed and just screwy. I just I don't know. Sometimes it's a weird low angle for no reason. It's like nothing has like dramatic impact. I don't like any of it. I just found myself being disappointed with it. So maybe that's just me. The conversation about the content of a comic book. Every stream is a damn auction or an ML. Hey, look, then we're here for you, man.
Yeah.
Hitch is famous for widescreen storytelling.
All right.
Perry,
what's up with the super chat? Thanks for stopping by.
We are discussing, the first issue of Venom, because we're looking back at the books from November, the noteworthy books for November.
That was his breakout comic that I first saw him in. It was the first
The Ultimates, meaning the Avengers stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never read that.
And honestly, like, I think his work on the Ultimates, which was what, 20 years ago,
probably,
was better than this. But yeah, architectural. We used to do this every week, and then we came to our senses
because we didn't want to hate comic books that much.
Yeah, because now we get to kind of pick and choose what we talk about, and we still end up
sometimes.
We've been doing pretty well though the last few months about picking stuff but I mean, these are two like huge releases. We couldn't ignore talking about them.
Yeah, and I also think that I feel like maybe it's just this time of year. I feel like there are fewer number ones, especially from indies. Like I have hardly read any issue number ones from indies the last couple of months. Like it hasn't been a ton of issue number ones to like start new stories on.
Yeah, well, typically, like much like a lot of things, like television shows take breaks this time of year. Comics hit like
right
around Christmas, New Year's. Like the amount of books coming out each week tends to drop.
Yeah. So for me, it's been more about reading like the final issues in storylines, or I'm in the middle of a story arc or whatever, but not a ton of number ones, which is kind of what this show is usually.
If Gore says it's interesting and fascinating, that must be true. So everyone go check out architectural foam panels and columns over on YouTube. We don't shill anything. Like I have done auctions on my channel. I did a charity auction once, but like most of my content is just about like the content of comics, because that's what I'm more interested in. NFTs are
where's the I was waiting for the
descriptor.
Don't get me started. All right, I just subscribed, and I'll drop the link in the chat here.
Thanks for being my admin on my channel.
I mean, I don't know if I still have my wrench. We'll find out in a second.
Oh, Chris, you got me. Says Alec, you don't make content. That is facts. But I do have past content.
All right, so let's see if this works. I got my wrench, and there's a link. So if you want to follow him, there you go.
Thanks.
Still works.
Yeah. So I mean, whatever. I'm not going to continue reading it probably.
Yeah. So again, 5 or a 6. I mean, I probably would give this one a 5 versus maybe a 6.
I'd flip flop. I give this one a 6.
But either way,
like it continues the trend of Marvel just kind of really like missing the ball for me.
Sure.
And just like,
but I mean, I think you felt that way about DC. It's not a uniquely Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I gave up on DC longer ago than Marvel because Marvel, I guess I was kind of more of a Marvel fan anyway. I've fluctuated like depending on, in the early mid 2000s, DC was just killing it. So I was reading more DC at the time.
Right.
And then New 52 was interesting. And then they chucked that out the window and did Rebirth, which was not as good. And now they did Future State. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And, Marvel just does a million events with crossovers and number ones coming out every other month. And it's just,
yep. We did discuss Hulk by Cates, and now we're doing Venom. But yeah, basically, yeah. That his Silver Surfer Black is
great.
worth
and
the time.
Trad Moore's art is reason enough to pick that up for sure.
And if you can find that large format,
yeah, it looks great.
It's so good. It's phenomenal. I've read it at least 3 times since I bought it.
At the risk of getting some hate for this, I think Cates is overrated. I think he is a fine writer. He has done some good stuff, but I think he is elevated to a level that he has not earned for me yet.
I don't think that's a hot take. That feels fair. Uh-oh. Right. You're going to click on it. I was like, oh, crap. You're going to give me the floor to talk about X-Men now?
I'll just sit back.
So here's the deal, Gore. I'm preparing a live stream on my channel at some point discussing how my 2022 reading goals are going to be a little different. My hope is to read more books in trade or digitally and to have a much smaller pull list of individual issues. So as far as the X-Men books go, I'm going to read almost everything either in the Marvel app, like 6 months behind, or I'm going to read them digitally for a few that I want to keep up on, month to month. It's a lot of good stuff going on out there. I hope that, there's a lot of stuff going on out there that I hope might be good. But I'm happy that some of the ones I've loved are winding down. If new creative teams are coming on, then I'm fine, like pushing the pause button on a lot of that stuff. So that's my hope. I find I enjoy books in trade a whole lot more. And when it comes to keeping up with teams I'm interested in or characters I'm interested in, most of that I probably wouldn't mind getting digitally. It'll be things like Zdarsky's new Elektra series that I might still continue to get individually, or Nightwing or things like that.
I think the reason why you tend to enjoy reading trades more is because most comics are written for number ones and trades now.
Yep.
So the stories are designed to read better in a trade. And that's not exclusive to Marvel. That's just kind of industry wide.
And it's cheaper. I don't have to get bags and boards, and I don't have to store it as more, which is another issue as well, right? Another challenge.
I'm going to pass.
Hard pass here.
Pass on both of these books.
Yeah, I'm not continuing to get either one. So again, I might come back around if I hear in a year how great these books are. that's why I got that Marvel app. I just go back and I can skim through and catch up. Like eventually I'll do with Cates' Thor one day.
Yeah, and I'm at like a point in collecting where like I've gotten over the whole FOMO thing. So if I miss out on some first appearance in Venom #3 of this run, and it turns out to be like the next Null, like I have the first appearance of Null. I don't care about Null. So like I have it and I'm keeping it because it's expensive and it's like a key book. But if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be like, oh man, I can't believe I missed that book about a character I don't care about.
Right.
But I mean, the only reason I have it is because I bought it off the newsstand.
Because you and I were reading it, yeah. Issue by issue all the way along.
So yeah, like I'm sure like there's probably going to be some big thing in each of these books and somewhere within the first 12 issues where it's going to be some like
it's going to be issue 3. Like, come on,
it's going to be like some big spec book. But I just don't care. Like I'd rather buy like weird indie books that have that no one cares about that I just think are cool.
So one thing we could note too, the Hulk didn't end with a last page villain reveal. What's up, Chad?
What's up, Chad?
This one, however, does.
We don't know that for sure.
I mean,
it ends with a first last page character reveal. Could be an ally.
Yeah.
It is unclear. But yeah, Hulk just kind of ends.
It does. Yeah. That's just kind of like he gone. To your point, architectural foam panels. Donnie's got some great stuff I'd recommend. Like God Country is my personal favorite of what he's done. It's just a single storyline. You can get it in a trade, and I think it's spectacular. I also loved his Thanos run, at least the Thanos wins storyline, where he got Cosmic Ghost Rider and Silver Surfer Black, and then of course, Silver Surfer Black. I love that as well. I'm sorry that you lost interest in it, but I thought it was a trippy, fun ride the whole way through.
Despite its faults and its hiccups along the way, for the most part, I think crossover has been pretty fun.
The only two issues I ever really liked in crossover were the Zdarsky, which is
the one he didn't even write.
It's a masterpiece, and he had nothing to do with it. And I really hope they go back to it. I hope there's a sequel issue coming along. And the sort of season, the first story arc finale, when we get to see what was inside the dome, and we get like all these fun cameos from characters like Hit Girl and the Walking Dead zombies and stuff like that. Those are the only, and even that one, I was like, oh, it was just cool to see the characters all together, but it didn't amount to anything for me. So I was like, So
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not like. Not even like one of the best books I've read recently, but
no,
it's just like, I don't know, it has some amusing stuff in it. I wouldn't say like, oh, you got to go out and read it.
Hey, if Zdarsky does another issue, I'm in. Like, I will definitely pick that up
for sure. But I mean, Zdarsky,
that book was perfection.
Zdarsky is like, when you talk about good writers working right now, especially in Marvel DC, like he's pretty up there as far as top of the heap.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. That's our Marvel craptastic voyage.
Shall we move on to the indie book we're talking about?
Yeah, we got one more book to discuss as a team.
Once again by Ram V, this time by himself without the help of or hindrance of Al Ewing, I guess. Depending on how you felt about it. It's called Radio Apocalypse. I was not familiar with the artist.
Me neither. So the name is Anand RK.
What's up with these last name just consonants? Ramvi.
Do you think it's Irk?
Could be.
Okay.
I'll start by saying like the art didn't really do anything for me, and it felt like something that I should like, because of the stuff I typically like, but I don't know. It just didn't get there for me really ever.
It's so perfect because I had the same reaction in that I'm like, God, I hate this artwork. This is really bad. I bet Alec likes it. Is exactly what my thought process was for this book. Was like, is Alec gonna be mad when I crap on this artwork? Fuck. Every time I turned a page, I was like, it's grotesque, but without any real reason.
Grotesque
and without
is a
any
great
real
word.
without any real like
It
impact.
like the features were super like weirdly exaggerated.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's a quality joke.
Rom the Fifth.
So this book is about an apocalyptic future, right?
It's nice to change of pace. We haven't gotten many of those.
Yeah,
lately.
right. That's not a fan favorite thing to write about. Where there are things that come out at night, also not really groundbreaking. And that there are these like safe haven compounds that kind of are scattered about where they have big walls and they kind of congregate there and very seemingly very carefully make sure that they always lock the gates before the sun sets so that these terrible creatures don't get in and wreak havoc and kill everybody. And then there's also something to do with radios.
Abstractly.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah. I mean, Gore, I'll give you the credit. The color at work is very nice. I think that they do add some nice elements through color. I don't think that improves the real sort of sloppy elements of the art that don't. I don't think they're just not working for me.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I hated it like you said you hated it.
I do hate this art. Yeah. I do not.
I just felt like it didn't get there for me. It didn't do what it was trying to do well enough for me to like. I felt like it was kind of trying to do what the Layla Starr art tried to do, but Layla Starr did it in a way that was beautiful, and this did it in a way that was grotesque, but like in a way that wasn't adding to the story. It just made it look like, oh, I don't like looking at this.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison, the Layla Starr, because that one, there's a beauty to it, even when it's not attractive.
Yeah,
like even when it's not like you're not looking at the characters thinking, wow, they are beautiful. You're thinking there is a beauty, a sort of symmetry to the look of Layla Starr, and even the grotesqueries, if you will, in that have a beauty to them, and this has just none of it.
I did also read Radio Apocalypse and What's the Furthest Place from Here back to back, and I was going to touch on that a bit later.
Oh, nice. I don't know anything about the second title, so that will be interesting to hear about.
Okay. But one thing at a time. Did I leave anything out that you wanted to talk about as far as story goes?
I mean, the main characters, I don't know.
Or who? I dare you to tell me who the main character is.
I don't know that I can give you a name of anybody.
No, but I mean, like, is it the girl or is it the kid? Is it the old man?
Yes.
Exactly.
So you have these two young people, I think they're both women, traveling together to get to one of these havens, one of them dealing with a nasty foot injury and has to be left behind so the other can make it there and hopefully get help. Gets there, doesn't have time to send for help because darkness is falling. Then we've also got this young guy who with his buddy is breaking in to steal some stuff, but when the shelving units or whatever fall on him, he gets left behind by his buddy and found by the old man who owns the place they're robbing, and then is forced to
also the radio station.
Which is the radio station. And that's the DJ guy, right? The old guy is the DJ. And basically has to pay for what he broke by working for him. So you've got the old man, the thief who's working for him, and these two young ladies, one of whom dies spoiler alert, by the end of this. And
I will
seemingly
say, though,
they're now all in the city together. The other three, they're in this radio.
Well, not
apocalypse
seemingly.
city.
They're literally all
Okay, sure.
there. But just to clarify one thing, so the old man catches this kid trying to rob him.
Yes.
And kind of brings him back to his house, and the kid tells him that, oh, I'm an orphan, I haven't had a good meal in 3 days. And the old man says, well, I can either give you to the authorities, they'll throw you out of the city where you'll die, or you can work off your debt to me and I'll give you a roof over your head and food.
Right.
So is he just doing that because he wants to get the work done, or is he doing it because he's like, this kid needs help and I'm going to help him?
I don't know. They've given us enough information at this point to even hypothesize. I get the feeling that the DJ old man is one of the good guys and is not doing it to destroy this kid in some way.
Right. Yeah.
So I get the feeling that there's like
there's also like a
hard strict mentor quality to this guy.
Yeah. There's also like the kind of president of the city. Like, I don't know what his role is really, but like the leader of
the governor
of this of this compound, who is a hard ass, but a hard ass for the reason of trying to protect his people, because he's like, this girl gets to the city before dark and she's like, we have to go back and get my friend, she's out there, she needs help. And the guy basically says like, no, like once these doors close at sundown, they don't get open until the morning. You can leave if you want. You just got here. You're not one of my people yet. But I'm not sending my people out to help your friend when they're just going to die doing this. If she's still alive by morning, we'll go get her and we'll bring her here and we'll take care of her.
And he had a couple of lines that were actually like memorable. I know that, he was one of the characters I felt like I connected to more than others, because he says something about my job is to keep all these people safe, and I fail at my job. Like, I suck at my job because people die all the time, and we're just trying to keep as many of them alive as possible. And I liked the way he's represented. I don't think he's going to end up being a good guy in this story, but I
don't know if he's necessarily going to be a bad guy either. It's hard to get a read on him, but like from what we saw of him, he really is just trying to keep his people alive. The people under his watch, he wants to keep them alive.
Right.
He doesn't seem to be like using them for his own gains or like anything like that. He's just overworked and underpaid. And by the end of the issue, we find out that a whole neighboring compound is headed their way, either looking for help or to take over. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I will say I don't want to read more. Like, I am not interested in another issue.
Yeah, I was bummed, especially because, like, again, Layla Starr was so good.
Absolutely.
And so I really had high hopes for this being another kind of creator-owned, story from the mind of the same writer. And obviously I didn't want it to feel exactly the same, but it did not feel like the same at all. There was none of the kind of poetic beauty to it. This is just like another apocalyptic story, and I just
and not even memorable among the ones we've had this year,
right? Or real life. Whoops!
Too close. Too soon. It's too soon.
In
that it's happening still right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we're 0 for 3 this week, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Struck out completely this week. And so apologies that this was another crap fest as far as me crapping on books. But, hey, you all should be used to this by now.
Yeah, I mean, unless this is your first time, you're thinking, boy, these guys are super negative. It's kind of our brand. So this is the other book that they're talking about in the chat.
Yes. Okay. Let's hear this.
It's by Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss, who did Four Kids Walk Into a Bank. Obviously, Rosenberg's done a lot of work for Marvel and stuff recently. It is another post-apocalyptic story about I'm not entirely sure. So
Is that the name of a character?
It has kind of like a Warriors-ish vibe because there are these cliques of teenagers who live in this area, and they have their own kind of zones, and they were brought there by these people they call the strangers, who they don't really know anything about. But they like the different groups of these teenagers kind of have their own identities. Like one of them wears pig masks, and the one that are like your hero characters are obsessed with vinyl records. They all kind of have to pick a record that represents them, and the main girl tries to pick a Hall & Oates album, and the guy she's talking to is like, "You can't pick that. That's cheesy. Like, you have to pick something cool." But to Architectural's point, he said it felt indulgent. Like, there's certainly like a pretentiousness to it. It feels like and is presented to be like an indie film. So it's got like chapter breaks. It has like a lot of like references to things. It's got so like I get how that would turn some people off, because it definitely felt like to a point it felt like the writer was trying to show off how cool they are. But I mean, I enjoyed it, possibly because I'm a pretentious asshole too. So that doesn't bother me as much.
I'm all for pretension.
I mean, I went to art school. It's hard to avoid. But like, I get it. Like, you want to put things like, if you're going to write a story about characters who basically like live in an old record store, that kind of like their hideout, and that they kind of connect with these albums, you as a writer are going to have your characters connect with the albums you connect with, because otherwise, like, it's going to come off as disingenuous when you say like, "Oh, I'm going to pick, Taylor Swift's album because that's popular. I don't know anything about Taylor Swift as a
I'm going to talk about DMX just because I know people like DMX."
Right. So instead, like, he picks The Descendants and Husker Du and all these 80s punk bands and stuff like that are clearly like where his interests lie.
Right. Well, much like having characters in books read books, and the books that they're reading often are going to be stuff that the writer is passionate about.
Right. Which is also like, to get on a broader scope, a writer is not going to write about a topic in general that they're not interested in. Or if they are, they're doing it for a paycheck, and it probably will show that they're not as interested in it. Much like when you see a writer do something for Marvel or DC and it's kind of subpar, maybe you're like, "Oh, this guy's not a great writer." And then they do something for a creator-owned project, and you're like, "Wow, okay, like, you have something to say here," because that's something they want to do, that they're passionate about. And maybe they are passionate about Spider-Man too, but like, it's just different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I went into my LCS the other day, and I was picking up some books, and I saw they had a whole Scott Snyder section set up with some trades. And I was like, I didn't really care for his Batman. I mean, I read, a couple of the trades, Court of Owls, what I liked, but like, I've read so much of his stuff that I just really didn't like. He's like, "Have you read any of his indie stuff?" And I was like, "I read one issue of Noctera." And he's like, "But have you read like American Vampire? Have you read, God, what's the other one I ended up picking up? He's Witches. He did a book called Witches. He's
Mhm.
he's like his indie horror stuff is phenomenal, but if you just know him as the Batman guy, you might not appreciate all that he's done.
Right. Well, even like someone like James Tynion, who we have been fairly critical of his Batman run,
Sure.
but we've found indie books of his that at least I've really enjoyed quite a bit.
Totally.
So that's a long way of getting to the point where, like, yeah, there is like a certain amount of him in this book, like trying to show how cool he is, right? Because he's like, oh, look at all these great like underground bands that I like.
I knew them before they were cool. Kind of a thing.
Okay. So he puts it much better than we could have. He says, but the characters become caricatured aspects of the writer projectively identifying their readership with themselves. Yeah. Albums that he thought was cool. Yeah. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we all want to be cool. Like, I wear band shirts of bands that I want to project my coolness of, and I listen to artists who I really enjoy, but I wouldn't necessarily wear a shirt of because I think they're not very cool.
You want to go one step further? Like the cool trend at the school where I work is having your kid go to school with the band's T-shirt, and the kids are like, "I don't even know what this shirt is I'm wearing." Like
But
this kid was going around with his Metallica shirt.
Yeah,
this kid's got his AC/DC. This little girl is coming around with the Rolling Stones lips and mouth thing, and she was like, "I don't know what it is. I just thought it was."
I saw it at Target, and I thought it. Yeah.
My mom bought it for me.
Oh yeah.
So now it's like one step removed from that.
The internet has made a lot of things weird. Said throw in a record that you think is shitty though, just for the sake of the character.
I mean, obviously, yeah.
I get the impression that Rosenberg's not necessarily the biggest fan of Hall & Oates, the way he shits on the character for wanting to be. But again, like, then it's almost like the same thing as showing bands you think are cool by showing bands you don't think are cool.
You're making a judgment call either way.
Yeah, you're still like showing your pretentiousness of like, oh, I can't enjoy Rich Girl because that was a radio hit.
But
Rich Girl, as the kids say, slaps.
But I think to Architectural's point, and again, I haven't read this book, I don't know anything about it, but if you were going to have a diverse group of characters and they're all going to be discussing music, you'd need to go research a little bit about, oh, this guy grew up in Baltimore. I wonder what music he might have listened to. Oh, this guy's from a family from India, so I wonder what he might have listened. You might need to research music and broaden your taste to achieve that.
They only kind of like vaguely reference this in the comic, but it seems that like all of these kids were taken as children into this compound, so they have grown up in this environment,
in this isolated. Curious.
Anyway,
all right, can I do my last one?
Yeah, please.
I got my last one. So I'm sorry, I don't know who in the community mentioned this book to me, but somebody was telling me that they saw that this book was a digital only, and that had I read it, and I told them no, I haven't really been reading much digitally outside of Marvel Unlimited, so I didn't get a chance to find it. And then my LCS got an issue number 1 for local comic book shop day, which I didn't know was a thing. I know that like free comic book day, but whatever. So this is Friday, issue number 1, Image Comics by Ed Brubaker and Marcos Martin. I believe this dropped 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. But when I saw it on the shelves, I knew exactly what it was because this person had mentioned it to me. I like Marcos Martin a lot. We've discussed him a few times. And of course, Ed Brubaker is a phenomenal writer. So I went and grabbed it. You can get a sense for the artwork here a little bit. Certainly.
Give you the old. Yeah, I mean, Marcos Martin is, I think, criminally underrated as far as artist working today. I think he's just so damn good.
Really a fun look to it that has, I don't even want to say like a it's got a child's style, which is perfect because the main characters are, early teen children. So if you haven't checked out this book, the synopsis would be, it focuses on the two kids on the cover here, the boy and the girl, who have a Watson Sherlock kind of relationship. They haven't been around each other for a little while. She's coming home for a visit. He is a bit of a Sherlock. He's got this kind of like obsessive attitude about needing to solve things and to help the local police. And he jumps right in with, we've got to solve this thing. Like, get in the car, let's go. And he's like friends, or I couldn't specifically tell. The local sheriff is like driving them around. I didn't get the sense that he was family, but that he was like a friend. And he's like taking them to do these little acts. Martin's a great visual storyteller. There you go. Oh, you read the book too. Awesome. My main gripe, they don't get too deep into the mystery of what's going on. They do find a local kid, and the local kid is committing some kind of act, but it's hard to tell if he's being manipulated in some way because he does seem like he's drugged out of his mind. It does that thing that we sometimes complain about. In fact, when I was reading, I was like, oh, this would piss Alec off. It starts at the end for like 2 pages.
No.
Then jumps to the beginning and then gets you all the way to the end again.
Yeah, waste of time.
It felt useless. Like it legitimately pissed me off. I was like, you don't need this. You don't. You could just as easily have told it chronologically, but they wanted to like hook you on page 1.
Now, do you think? Now, maybe I'm just giving myself way too much credit. Did you hate it so much because I've complained about it so many times?
No, because I've recognized it in movies and TV as well. Before we were doing this show together, like that could be an irksome thing, just like voiceover in a movie or excessive narration. Can be frustrating and exhausting. When you're watching a movie or you're reading a comic and it's just like constant narration that you're like, why don't this guy just shut up and just let me just watch something?
Yeah. The only movie or piece of media that did the start at the end trope that worked for me was Memento.
That's a pretty great
one.
But
that's the whole point.
Did you ever see, way off. Let's get way off. There's a movie called Fallen with Denzel Washington that is beautifully done with that trope. Because the first line of the movie, Denzel's running through like a snowy wood and you don't know what's going on. And he's like, let me tell you about the time I almost died. And then he goes to the beginning. It's literally like, 10 seconds.
Well, you could say the same thing about like American Beauty, where he's like, the narration has got narration and, spoiling that in the movie where he's like, I die.
Yeah.
This is how I died.
Yeah.
But I still don't love that, but it's better than like you said, multiple pages of a comic book wasted telling you the end of the story.
Which you're going to get to anyways.
Where you can use that to like strengthen your characters or strengthen the tension or, have
because for me, the drama in this story is these two kids that were clearly friends, but have had disagreements and they're thrust back together again. Right. I don't think enough time was spent on that for me. Oh man. Yeah. The Saving Private Ryan thing really doesn't work, Perry. And let me tell you why. The character was not at D-Day. The guy that is like telling the story or thinking of the story wasn't there. And it fades from his eye. It cuts to like Tom Hanks looking up, but that guy's not Tom Hanks. It makes no sense that guy is telling the first the whole movie, because he wasn't freaking there for any of it. He shows up at the freaking end. That one is one of the worst examples, in my opinion, of using that trope. Because if you really stop and look at it, there's no logic to him telling the story. It just doesn't. Let Ed Burns' character tell the story. Make it Ed Burns at the end, and you pack an emotional wallop. But Get rid of this. Get rid of this Matt Damon. We don't need more Matt Damon. The trade is already available. Now you tell me, Gore. Well, apparently John's going to buy the trade next week.
Refer yourself in the third person.
I did. So I will say, like, the artwork is, of course, phenomenal. There's a fun, like, occult subtext going on here. But I was joking to Alec that it feels like a slightly more R-rated Nancy Drew, in the sense that the crime is a little more raw and violent, but it's still kids trying to solve it. Thanks, Barry. So I really enjoyed it. I would probably give this an 8.5 out of 10. Like, I think there's a lot of potential here. It's hard to tell. That one,
just rip out the first couple pages and
it's basically there. I'm basically there. But there's some amazing art on those early. It's written into little chapters. There's some amazing art. The girl in the trees, and it you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages before it jumps back to before previously on, and then you get like to get caught up again. I think it's really enjoyable. I think it could be something a lot of fun. So I'm definitely going to look forward to reading it. Of the first 3 issues, it's the trade is only the first 3 issues in a small format. Are they? My big question is, will they continue to release it in single issues? Because I'll keep buying it if they do it.
But if it was just released as a local comic shop day to, get interest, and then you have to either buy the trades or digital.
Am I going to start reading this digitally, basically, right? Which, I mean, hey, that's where I'm going anyways. Why not just throw another book in there? Whatever happened to Burns? He was a good director, too. I mean, yeah, I liked Ed Burns. He's definitely fallen off. What are you going to do?
We've all fallen off a little bit.
This guy.
And with that, what do you got going on, John?
Let's see. I got, hopefully, fingers crossed, I have a Comic Gories coming up this coming Monday. A couple of my contestants have been telling me they have not been feeling well the last few days. Specifically, our good friend Mars from the Comics Will Break Your Heart show on every Sunday she's not been feeling well. So I'm hopeful she gets her strength back and is ready for Monday when we'll do that show. I just did an unboxing of some really amazing books on my channel on Monday night, including some beautiful Nick Cardy Aquaman covers. Absolutely just amazing pieces from Simon R. Thank you, Simon, because he outbid me on these damn things in Big Will's auction, and then he AOK'd me. So.
That's always a jerk move.
Because I was making fun of him for being a sniper for so long, and then he sent that to me with a little sticker saying, like, it's not sniping if you're AOKing it. So that's coming up. That was on Monday, and then coming up on Sunday, I'm going to be on Big Will's channel because we're going to be talking about how to create D&D characters. We are building our characters for this guy's campaign. So
one
off. Yeah. But we're going to talk about how to do it. We're going to go through how to level up a character, all that kind of stuff. So we'll definitely do some of the basics of how to create a character on Big Will's channel Sunday night. And then that's about it. Saturday show with my girls. We're done with soccer season for now. We may be jumping back in the spring. So who knows?
And, I am going to be running a one-shot D&D campaign in a couple Sundays from now.
Week and a half.
Last holiday special that we did was a lot of fun, so hopefully I can do something equally as fun. It's going to be much different than last year's, but last year's was about like
nothing less.
Last year's was about like hope and kindness,
the Christmas spirit.
Because 2020 was coming to an end, and we thought, maybe
you had a little
2021 we could recover, and it's just been, thanks.
And I've got my anti-joy equation shirt going on here.
This guy.
It's that guy. Yeah, it's from his Teespring. Is it Teespring?
TeePublic.
TeePublic. Damn it.
That's all right. That I also never even advertise for anymore.
I mean, I can, while you're finishing up, I can drop the link.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's okay. 9.4 is near mint. Silver Age sucks. At some point, I'm going to be back with a couple of the fellas on JP's channel doing the Usagi Yojimbo. One of those is Jimmy Geek Aficionado, who asked me to be on his show. He was doing a live stream he wanted to do for showing some indie books he bought. But I was at the end of my first week of moving the warehouse, so I was in no position to be trying to be interesting or talkative on. So, I'm not sure if he did that without me. If he hasn't, we might try to schedule that. So,
all right, I think I got it.
Otherwise, if I don't see any of you until the holidays and the New Year, stay safe and have a great time. And
there's the Teespring link at TeePublic. I did it.
The best advice I can give any of you: never turn your back on the ocean.